Hello, fellow Arkhamites. Looks like this will be the last we see of each other for a bit. I can barely contain the heartbreak. It's no doubt we are going to miss our weekly sessions, but luckily, Batwoman serves us a very satisfactory last meal. Well, for now, anyways. So, for the last time until January, welcome to Arkham Archives, your one and only podcast on all things Batwoman. I'm Fra, your host for the week, and as always, I am joined by my favorite prisoners, Ines and Anna. Hi, girls!
Hi.
We're all actually physically together this week for the first time since we started. A mid season finale is not to be taken lightly, after all. A quick plug to our social media. If you like what you hear, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Arkham_Archives. That's Arkham_Archives. You can find us on YouTube as well. This podcast is available on all main platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you can, please leave a review if your platform has that option. It would greatly help us reach more Batwoman fans, so we would truly appreciate it. But now, let's get into the fun bit. Well, what a ride the first half of season 3 has been. Ryan found her bio mom, Jada Jet, whose secrets we slowly unveiled throughout the episodes. The biggest one? Ryan's brother Marcus is a major psychopath, and that's the reason Jada gave Ryan away, or so she says. Luke had to deal with his PTSD from getting shot last season and was struggling to wear the Batwing suit. And Sophie officially joined the Bat team and started to fall for Ryan. The team was mostly occupied with locating Batman's lost gallery of rogue items with the help of the sexiest rogue in Gotham, our girl Alice. Mary had issues to deal with of her own, but seems like the team was a bit lost in their own to lend a hand. So without any of them noticing, she got infected by poison ivy and slowly transformed into the baddest bitch in town. Or a violent criminal if you prefer. And that's where we start our mid-season finale. Ryan helps Jada lock up Marcus, and in return, Jada helps find a cure for Mary's poisonous infection. So far, so good. Except Marcus breaks capture, steals the cure, and uses it to blackmail Ryan into stepping down as CEO of Wayne Enterprises, opening the way for Marcus to take over. Even worse, Mary refuses the cure because, well, she's having fun putting herself first for once, even if this self has basically fully transitioned into a very reckless, powerful, and manipulative villain. Now that we're mostly all caught up, let's get into the deets. I'll start by asking, girls, how are we feeling now that we've reached the mid-season finale? Are we satisfied with what we've gotten so far? What's your review of the first half of the season? And did you feel like this episode was a nice conclusion?
I think for me, the highlight this season was definitely Mary's storyline. I think we got more than what we were expecting. Because at the beginning we thought the Poison Ivy storyline would just be maybe a team up with Mary and her, but I was never expecting that we got Mary as the actual villain. And yeah, for me, Mary and Alice team up is the best part of this season. I also really enjoyed that we got, as we predicted, the Bat team split up. And that's such an interesting dynamic, and I'm really excited for what we're going to get next season. In general, for the villains, I also think it's really interesting that we get the villain but connected with the family dynamic, because we get Jada and we get Marcus double crossing both Jada and Ryan. So I think it's a cool season. It has things that we never had before, and I think it helps us get something new from the characters that we never had before and different dynamics. So yeah.
On my end, I'm personally very conflicted about this season finale. I can't say I'm ever entirely sated when it comes to Batwoman because I feel like this season is just flying by and I keep craving more and more out of it. So this episode being the mid-season finale felt very bittersweet to me, at least. With that being said, though, I think our regular listeners might know this already, but I'm pretty sure I speak for all of us when I say that I'm in love with this season personally.
Same.
So I think that overall it has been everything we had hoped for and then some. It seems like the writers just keep topping themselves with every episode, and the episodes are all like funny but serious and overall extremely exciting for all of us to watch.
Yes.
And I think that's, a very hard balance to maintain, and they've been doing that very well. not to mention the episodes are filled to the brim with like great performances from the actors. And there's hardly ever a dull moment in Batwoman. I think there's, like we mentioned before, there's always something happening. And yeah, I think the first half of the season has shown that everyone who's involved in the making of this show really does it because they love it, and that shows on screen. And I think they also, have shown that they have plans of sticking around. They're not joking with this. They are here for the long run. They are trying to get renewed. And on that note, CW, please renew Batwoman for another 2 seasons at least. But yeah, I think this episode overall was a good spot to end the season, the mid-season at least, because even though it wasn't my personal favorite episode of the season, I think it
was it Professor Pig?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think that it sets up a very exciting second half of the season, and probably more exciting even than the first half, because for the first half we had this premise for season 2 that was the Gallery of Rogues, but it was like, to us at least, because we didn't know how this season was gonna go, it felt very detached from the main characters, sort of. And
Exactly.
with the second half of the season, we know that our characters are very much in the thick of it all and very affected by this. So I'm very excited for 3B, and please, January, come quickly.
I have to agree, this season so far has definitely been my favorite of the 3. There's a lot of pressure for the second half, but I'm not worried, honestly.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of storylines that are just starting now. So I'm not gonna complain too much, because I think we're just getting the start of it, and everything is going to explode in 3B. So I'm really excited. But also a point, I'm a bit sad that we only get 13 episodes.
Oh,
Hopefully, we get a more condensed but nice storyline, and each episode really holds on its own. So
Yeah, no fillers.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think that's the bonus of short seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gotta get to the point, and damn, Batwoman gets to the point.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start off with Wildmoor. It's been a pretty eventful season for them, but in the end, there was no real development of their relationship. So we're still left in the realm of the subtext. Sophie forgave Ryan pretty quickly for her crypticness in the last episode, but they are perhaps more distant than they've been since season 2. How did you guys feel about their scenes in this episode, and do you think we can expect at least a little kiss in 3B?
First of all, I feel like I'm a child of divorce when it comes to the two of them. I know someone else made this joke on Twitter, but I've been thinking it since we saw. Yeah, so I stole it. Sorry. But Ryan's expression when Sophie said she didn't spend the night home was like priceless to me. So you can tell there's something there. With that being said, I honestly don't know if we're back to square one with Wildmoor. I think we were pretty on the money when we said that this relationship was going to be like full of back and forth, and that's what the show is bringing.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're in the same place at all that they were the previous season, especially when it's so clear that Ryan was pretty hurt with Sophie sleeping with Renee of all people. So I think that scene between Sophie and Luke was very nice and could be easily regarded as them both like needing relationship advice, sort of, when Sophie was bandaging up Luke. And it seems that they have realized they, didn't act the proper way with their love interests. And yeah, but I do agree with you that Sophie forgave Ryan rather quickly for what she did. And I think that maybe comes from like a place of guilt in her, because she did mention that while she was sleeping with Renee, she let Alice go. But yeah, I'm definitely excited about them, and I think we are getting a 3B kiss.
Yeah, I think this season we are getting really small steps for them. And while we did want a slow burn, so this is nice, but I do agree that maybe there was missing some like key moment that would tease us for the next half.
Yeah.
Maybe some, I don't know, because from Sophie we are pretty clear that she has feelings. From Ryan, I mean, in this episode we got her being jealous, obviously, but I don't know, I'm missing something verbal from Ryan, maybe. Something where she helps Sophie somehow, and it's really clear that a relationship will happen in the future. So I like it. I think I missed that bigger step. But I do think we're getting a kiss in 3B because we're not gonna get all this teasing for nothing, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah. Knowing the Batwoman writers, I don't think they would do that. So, yeah. I hope we get the steps get a bit shorter in in 3B and that we get somewhere. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it.
Okay, so let's move on to Marcus's storyline before we get to the big stars of this episode. Honestly, I am really digging Nick Cregan's take on his character. He truly succeeds in making Marcus insufferable.
Yes.
It's fair enough that he was hurt as a child, but sometimes it's great to just have characters you can freely hate. What did you guys think of his arc in this episode and the overall rise of his character?
Yeah, I loved it. He was really, really great this episode. I was already liking Marcus, but I think in this episode I truly felt like he was a psychopath because his face was just so amazing, his expressions, and how it changed so quickly. In two scenes. In the scene where he pretends to be hurt by her, and then she's feeling really sorry and he attacks her. Like, wow, I really bought into his act a little bit. I wasn't expecting, and I even jumped when that happened. And then his scene with Ryan as well, where he confesses that he's not hurt, and like there was truly some Joker act what he did. And yeah, he's amazing, and I can't wait for what's coming in 3B because I think he's just going to get more insane now that it's all in the clear that he's the villain. And yeah, he has a lot of power now, so I'm scared.
Yeah, sorry, Nish, but I just wanted to say, as a segue to what Anna said, that in the scene that you mentioned where he's getting frozen, I was actually writing down on my phone that I'm getting emotional, and then
Yeah.
haha, it was all fake.
No.
The acting was amazing in that scene.
Yes.
And not to segue off your segue, but yeah, I'm quite enjoying Nick's performance as the second coming of the Joker. I think it's very clear to me, at least, that he's very accustomed to the character, or at least did some research, because there are some mannerisms that he has that are very Joker-like to me. And I think the one that stood out the most was when he pulled down the corner of his mouth with his fingers.
Yes.
It was really giving Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the recent movie.
I don't want to be controversial, but I wonder how Jared Leto feels knowing there's yet another Joker that's better than him. And he's now even lower on the list. I'm sorry to Jared Leto, but Nick Cregan stole the show.
Oh well, facts on facts. There's that Portuguese saying, quem diz verdade não merece castigo.
Period.
So true.
So, but yeah, I'm sure the colorful Joker clothing style will also be incorporated into the show very soon. But I mean, we already saw a bit of it this episode with like the bright orange suit, which was a serve, by the way. I do have to say.
And the purple hair.
Yeah,
I love
and
the purple hair.
Yeah, I saw your notes on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we have to talk about it. But yeah, as far as storyline goes, though, I'm very much appreciating Marquis's storyline. I agree that it's nice to have like a villain that's just a pain in the ass, period.
Yeah.
And I love to see it, honestly, because we all love Alice, but we also excuse a lot in Alice because we are quite in love with her as a character. And I mean, it's not that we don't like Marquise, but he's very much more unredeemable than she is, for now at least. Because like you said, even in his most vulnerable moments so far, he's being fake. So
Yeah.
Whereas with Alice, we've seen some genuinely sad moments coming from her. And, I'm not the biggest supremacist for male villains anyway. It's a known fact, but I'm very much interested in this story. And most of all, I think what did it for me with his character is the connections he has to the other members of the Bat team.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, we uncovered the possible connection to Luke, which I won't get into right now because I know we want to talk about it later. At the end of this episode, it seems like Mary is gonna have some interest in Marquise. So that's gonna be fun and it's gonna be alright, but I think it's been very pleasing so far that the show hasn't like used the Joker to take away from the other characters, but rather to like add on to them.
Yeah.
And I can really appreciate that.
I feel like that's an overall feeling for the season so far.
Mm-hmm.
All of the plots have been to further character development and not the other way around. I love when shows do that because I am not a fan of destroying characters for the purpose of plot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great season.
Yeah, it's very much plot in service of character
Yeah.
and not the other way around.
That's the way I like my shows.
Yeah, I just put a note as well saying that it was so nice that we were right because he was double crossing Jada and
Yeah.
Ryan. We're too smart for this show.
Surprise,
we just
surprise.
analyze a lot, so every twist is like, oh yeah, we discussed it. It's fine. But I do think it makes sense for his character though.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that Ryan is going to be ruthless with him in the same way that she was with Alice, for example, in the remaining episodes? Or do we think that she is going to try to reason with him and offer compassion like she did in the blackmail scene in this episode?
From her face, when he reveals he never wanted to help her in the scene at Wayne Enterprises, I would predict she is going to be ruthless. But I do think him being connected to her is going to have a shift. So I think she is going to try to be ruthless, but I don't think she will be able to. And that will be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think Ryan can go either way, which is very exciting. I mean, I keep bringing up exciting, but that's what it is. I think it's very exciting for the second half of the season because, like Anna mentioned, and we've mentioned before, we've seen how Ryan tends to act towards Alice,
Yeah.
and how critical she was of Kate for not just turning Alice in. So on that one hand, it would be very consistent of her character if she did the same to Marquise. On the other hand, though,
Maybe
it
she
would-
will understand Kate a little bit more.
Yeah, also that. And I think it would also like show growth on her end to have her sympathize with the struggle of Kate exactly, and with wanting to do right not only by Gotham but by the people in her family. I think that would be very cool of the show to show us actually. But personally, I would like to see Ryan choose the empathetic route with Marquise, while at the same time the show's still proving him to be like beyond redemption, you know. I think it would show growth on her end, while at the same time it would provide like the series with a villain that does need to be put away for everyone's best interest. And, you know, show that sometimes despite her best efforts, Ryan can save everyone. I think it would be very important for her to know that, because every hero, every superhero show has that moment where the hero realizes they can save everyone. So
Yeah, maybe there will be a point where she has to choose between him or saving the city, and it's gonna be a struggle, but she's gonna save the city instead of him. And like you said, realize you can save everyone, and he's really beyond redemption.
Do we think that we're gonna get some kind of the Dark Knight kind of thing where he puts a bomb someplace and there's a whole lot of victims, or is he gonna keep doing just one kill at a time? Because if it was that, it would really make Ryan pick between the city and his and her
Oh,
brother,
yeah.
because the Joker is famous for those kinds of situations where he literally wants to kill like just a bunch of people.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. And it would be kind of interesting because she would struggle a lot. What would be interesting is that if he was getting better, quote unquote, but then she would have to know he's beyond redemption, and at the end of the season, she has to put him away and save the city, or he dies or something dramatic like that.
Yeah.
And I think it would make sense for him to do something like what we were saying, Fran, because now he has all this money because he bought Wayne Enterprises, and he has all this access to stuff that he maybe didn't have before. So he has the means to do those type of things, and I think it would definitely be very cool to see that.
And it's very Joker-like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joker loves blowing up buses, putting bombs on ships, and also the accident with the school bus, right? That was Joker, and
Yeah.
it was a bunch of kids. So if Marcus really wants to live up to his hero, he should do something crazy like that, and it will be a lot of fun, so to speak, you know? It will be painful, but it's still... Okay, so now let's dive into the funnest, most chaotic villain duo that Batwoman has gifted us with. And we are so thankful. Seriously.
Yes.
I'm having the most fun I've ever had with this show, watching Alice and Mary scenes. Truly a dynamic that is giving it its all. What was your favorite scene of theirs in this episode? I need help deciding mine.
Honestly, I'm predicting this is going to be a long episode because I think we all have a lot to say about Mary and Alice. Like we've been saying, I think this is truly what we've wanted, and it's changed their dynamic so well, and we've been wanting something like this since season 1. So it's really cool. And I really like in this episode that it was fun, but we had emotional scenes. Mostly that Alice is kind of there for Mary when she really needs it. But in this episode, I also realized that it's kind of the other way around as well. Alice was also needing someone that got her, not only on the dark side, but really listened to her. And yeah, I'm just loving it.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to pick just one scene because I love their chaotic antics, but I really live for the moments when their edges soften, if just a little. So I think that the one scene where Alice promises to be by Mary's side was my personal favorite, and I know we'll be talking about that in a bit, but I think that overall all of their scenes were pretty amazing, and I'm very happy that we finally get to see so much of Nicole and Rachel together in our screens.
Yes.
I personally was missing that, and I'm sure they were as well. But, you know, Batwoman is the show where dreams come true, so this is one we've had for a long-ass time, and I'm here to enjoy it to the fullest.
For my favorite scene, I think I really like the emotional one, but my personal favorites are the funny ones always. So the ones at the pub, mostly where you get the guy with the O negative blood and that they're trying to compel him to give it. It was especially funny to me because, fun fact, I'm also O negative and I'm also a Gemini. So
You felt seen.
yeah, that guy was me actually.
You know, I have to add though, Alice said that being a Gemini was like a plus, and I'd have to ask, when is being a Gemini a plus?
Excuse me?
Hot take, sorry.
I know nothing about astrology.
This is why Alice is my favorite. You know now. She understands Geminis and
Yeah.
she's O negative. It was meant to be.
She understands Geminis.
Astrology is real. Thank you, Alice.
Okay, but regarding the scene in the pub where Mary opens up about not wanting to be alone, and Alice even gets tears in her eyes promising her she's not going anywhere. I know Alice isn't the most reliable, but I really believed her this time. After all she has ever wanted was a sister, and seems like she's finally found one. Did you guys believe her as well?
Yeah, I really do believe that Alice is being sincere this time around. Like you said, Alice has always wanted Kate to be her partner in crime. And during season 1, she really hated Mary because she thought Mary was the one in the way of that happening.
Right.
Now that Mary is the only family she has, and the same can be said about Alice towards Mary, I think that it's very fitting that she finally got what she wanted. And with that being said, I do think she's being genuine because, it's something she wanted for a very long time. And I think she's gonna work to cherish that and protect that and keep things that way. So it's gonna be very interesting to see this episode.
Yeah,
Not this episode, sorry. It's gonna be very interesting to see what's coming up for them.
Yeah. I think you always know Alice has her own agenda, like that's never going to change. But I think there's always a duality with Alice. She has her own agenda, but she also deeply wants some connection that she's not getting. And yeah, I agree with Ines. She's getting what she didn't get with Kate, and yeah, she's really excited about this. And I think that's where it comes. I think we're gonna talk about this later. The Kate trash talking with them, but I think it was really significant that they were saying, "Oh, Kate would never do this," because it shows that, oh yeah, Mary would do this. This Mary would be here for me. And I think that was really symbolic and not just a fun moment. I think it had some deep meaning.
Yeah, and I would say that obviously Evil Mary is more sympathetic towards Alice and more open to being around Alice, but I really do think that after she is cured, unlike Kate, she will not double cross Alice. Like, I fully believe that. Even when she's good again, she's still gonna be like, I made you a promise that I wasn't gonna leave you alone, and I'm not gonna let you be put away again, and I'm gonna help you, and I'm gonna be your sister. We're gonna talk a little bit more about the sister thing in a bit, but you guys know what I mean, right? Even
Yes.
after she's going to be cured as a character, Mary's much more. She's much sweeter. She's much kinder than Kate was. So I believe that even though they're both kind of high on this new promise of a future together, even when they come down from it, even when Mary's good again, I still think she's gonna uphold her promises.
Yeah, and I really think that, and I think that whatever they go through during their villain time, I think will bring them closer, because then who else is better to understand what they've been through than the other, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be, in a weird way, I think it's gonna be very good for their relationship coming forward.
Yeah, because we've talked about how Mary is gonna have consequences in terms of mental health and dealing with what she has been doing as Poison Ivy. It is quite possible that Luke and Ryan will not understand exactly what she's going through, and then maybe Alice will. So even what I mean is that even when Mary gets cured, this is not the end for Mary Alice, I think. I have to say though, I am a bit uncomfy with the sexual tension they have, with all the staring and the gay ass comments that Alice keeps making.
Yeah.
And then they keep talking about how they're sisters, and it's like, am I just making stuff up, or are the vibes actually there?
I was so mad at Alice for looking at Mary like that.
I know.
Mostly in the final scene. I was like, I hate you, Alice. Why are you doing this to me? But yeah, it's Alice that keeps mentioning that they're sisters, and then she keeps making gay comments and looking at her like that. Like,
She
what?
literally said she wanted to date her last episode.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the vibes are definitely there.
Definitely.
Do I think it's gonna happen? No.
No, absolutely not. But
On one hand, I like that it confirms by Alice, but that's about it. I don't want anything to happen.
at this point, neither do I, because all the sister talk really turned me off, and then they kept being weirdly into each other at the same time, and I was like, what the hell's going on here?
But yeah, on that by Alice note, when she made that comment about her type being tall, dark, and broody, did anyone else think of Sophie, or was that just me?
Oh.
I didn't, but I'm into it.
I mean, I thought of Ocean.
I mean, I also thought of Ocean, but he's dead. So.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Sorry, we did like Ocean, okay? Like,
I loved Ocean.
Okay. So, I have to talk about the scene where they talk about Kate. I thought that was hilarious. As much as I love Kate, it was just funny to me that the only time she has been mentioned in a significant way this season has been to completely trash her legacy. The line, then she would have felt really bad about it in her diary, completely destroyed me. Like, I was crying. Not to get controversial here, but do we think this is the writers feeding into the fandom's distaste for Kate's character? Or were they just really going for a comedic effect?
I mean, Freya, you can confirm I laughed really hard when I watched that scene. I was not expecting it at all, that they were going so clear with the hate for Kate. And about your question, I think it was a bit of both, to be honest. I think they know that would work with the fandom, but also it's very funny, so it works for the plot as well. Yeah, as I said, I didn't think they would go there, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I was here for it. I think it's a bonding experience for them that they were both betrayed by Kate at some point.
It's true.
Yeah. I think the writers really said, fuck Kate Kane, all my homies hate Kate Kane in this episode. And I'm sorry.
I am death staring Inez right in the face right now. I am your homie and I do not hate Kate Kane. I want to make that
Yet.
very clear.
You did agree in the scene.
I thought it was really funny, but I was still like, excuse me.
But I mean, you don't hate Kate Kane yet.
I mean, she's gone. What else can she do?
You know, the limit does not exist. But I agree with Anna that I think it was a bit of both. I think that they for sure did it for the effect of it all, but also it's not a complete lie.
No,
And
at all.
that's what the fandom has been pointing out after all, that Kate wasn't the greatest sister. Like, we've been over this, even in the podcast. So what's to say she would have treated Mary any differently than she did Alice? And even worse, what would happen? And what would that say about Kate if she did treat Mary differently than she would Alice?
that's true.
Oof, yes.
So there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm glad the show is kind of using Kate's neglect as a bonding point between them. But yeah, that was definitely a highlight of the episode for me. It was very fucking funny.
I do get a little bit nervous when characters leave the show and the writers have full freedom to do whatever they want with their memory as a character, because it's not like casual viewers will be rewatching the first seasons to rehash their opinion on Kate. That their opinion is gonna start to get molded by whatever is said about her from now on. That does make me a little bit nervous. I thought the scene was hilarious, but if I do like kind of step back a little bit, it might have been a little too harsh. Hopefully it doesn't get repeated very often. I don't want them to make Kate into a villain just because the fandom kind of hates her. You guys know that I'm a Kate Kane defender, and obviously she did a lot of bad, but she did a lot of good, and literally all of the characters in this show. Like, am I gonna start hating Luke for whatever he did this season because he neglected Mary or whatever? No. I have a comment later on about how I missed him and I love him. So it's like, Ryan also neglected Mary and lied
exactly.
to
to
Sophie and blah, blah, blah. So, let's not be hypocritical here.
I was gonna say that what they mentioned about, Kate would put you straight into Arkham. Ryan also does that.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
It's fair.
I mean, and it did prove that Ryan would do that.
Yeah,
In-
exactly.
They said it in this episode.
When Mary compels her to tell the truth, she
Oh,
said
true.
she would put her there. So you can kind of compare it that in this case she would do the same as Kate.
Yeah, so I don't really think it's slander. Like, I get what you're saying, that Kate isn't here to defend herself as a character, but I think it does stand true to what happened in season 1 and what we commented between one another back then. And I think it's still, like you said, it can still be applied to characters right now that we love, and we don't stop loving them because of their mistakes, the same way like we don't stop loving Kate. I mean, Kate isn't my favorite character. But, I wouldn't have started this show and stuck around for season 1 if I didn't like her to some degree.
Yeah.
And we all agreed when you were watching the first season for the first time, and Anna and I were rewatching that, like, Kate doesn't exactly lose with the rewatchability of the show. Like, she doesn't become more hated just because we are watching again. But her mistakes are still very much there. And I agree that the show shouldn't ignore them, but I also agree with you that it shouldn't like be brought up every other episode, especially on a character that's no longer here. So
It shouldn't be all that's left of her.
yeah.
Okay, so before we let go of Alice, I just wanted to comment on how they have not mentioned her hallucinations for a while. I know there's a lot going on at the moment, but the lack of mention is making me nervous and slightly annoyed too. Couldn't Mary have asked her about them in this episode in one of their various scenes?
Yeah, I agree completely. I think they're leaving that storyline really in the shadows. And yeah, at least they could tease with a couple of dialogue lines to make us wait for that storyline in the other half. And I also put a note here that I hope they don't solve that in just one episode and be done with it, because mental health is really important, obviously.
Why am I worried that's exactly what's gonna happen?
Because when you put that question here, that's the first thing I thought. Like, I hope it's not just teasing and then it's all done and solved.
I do agree that they could have brought it up in this episode because, especially because it was such a short episode. It was like 30 something minutes long, and I were just noticing a little bit earlier. But I don't think they have forgotten about it, and I'm very much expecting 3B to like amp it up a lot. But I also do agree that there could have been a little bit more build up and foreshadowing towards a possible Alice mental breakdown in the next half of the season.
Yeah, like we mentioned, she's being a sidekick a lot this season, and she really needs a whole episode just for her, I think.
Okay, now I want to talk about Mary and the infinite nuances of her transition into Poison Ivy. I feel like there's so much that can be said about the way they have built this arc, which I am in love with, by the way. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet.
I mean, only like 5,000 times.
But to keep it focused on this episode, I'll bring up two scenes. One where she can help but mind control a dude into donating blood. Like, that is so Mary. Of course, even when she gets evil superpowers, she can help but use them for good. And then when she leaves the cop to die, this would be a critical moment for any good character turned bad. But for Mary, the absolute goodest character, but who also happens to be a doctor who's never refused to save a life, even of the most unworthy people, I felt like this scene was incredibly symbolic of her final transition into a more unscrupulous and heartless person. And as much as I'm having fun watching her be evil, both those scenes really hurt to watch. I'm wondering if you guys felt the same way?
Oh, yeah. Not only did they hurt to watch, but it's most of all gonna hurt like a bitch when Mary comes down from all of this.
Yes.
Like I'm unfortunately gonna have to bring up Legacies here, but that show is.
Oh no.
But that show is like going through something similar with its main character, and I really love this type of arc for characters where like when the purest of all beings does something awful when they're not quite themselves, and then they have to face the music and deal with the consequences. It's always been like one of my favorite tropes, and you know, like you said, Mary's such a pure character, and she's used so far her powers not just to harm people, but to get them to do good things, which is also like a very Poison Ivy thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're both doctors. So in the
Yeah,
end, they're both
exactly.
very interested in helping the
people.
planet and helping people.
Exactly. So like even Ivy in the comics usually uses her powers to do good in the end. You know, it's maybe the means aren't the correct ones, but the ends justify them. I mean,
Controversial.
not to be a villain apologist, but you know, she makes some points sometimes. And yeah, I'm excited to see how Mary will do that, especially since she at the end of the episode like indicated that she wanted to team up with Marquise. And I think they're on like very different levels of morality. So it's gonna be fun to see how the show balances that. But I'm mostly excited for when, you know, when Mary's inevitably cured and has to deal with the things she's done that she can take back.
Yeah, that's gonna be really interesting. I personally like that scene where she hesitates on saving that guy that they run over, and then Alice says something like, "No, that's what old Mary would do. This new Mary wouldn't do that." And that for me was the most symbolic thing, because it really changes. She really leaves the old Mary behind. She's like, no, now I'm Poison Ivy or Poison Mary, and this person doesn't do this, so let's go. And yeah, but it's gonna be interesting to deal with the consequences later.
And to finish up, I want to say that this was my favorite Luke episode so far this season. It really made me emo and reignited the soft spot that I've always had for him. From him attempting to stop Marcus with just one arm, opening up to Sophie, and then locating Mary from her love for coffee. I'm glad my baby is back in all his awesome glory.
Yeah, he was a baby this episode.
He really was.
I was really soft for him as well. I'm glad he finally recognized where he was wrong and that he had a chance to kind of be a hero and save Mary from what he knew from her. That was really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him. I hope we get more of that in 3B. And also that he gets his own storyline and that intersects maybe with saving Mary and helping her get back to what she was previously.
Yeah, I fully agree with you guys that I feel Luke has kind of slipped into the background this season. And I wasn't really having it, but this episode really brought it back for me. And I just love Luke as a character. He's the softest, purest little bean and the only male character I've ever loved in my life, for being honest. But yeah, I do agree with you, Anna. And I think this whole thing with Mary and him trying to save her is really going to push him to work on himself.
Yeah.
And kind of put some pressure on him to become Batwing, even without his dad's help without his dad being on his ear all the time.
Yeah, because Mary still has his AI.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really excited for 3B Luke, and I think and hope that he's gonna eat it up, because we talked about how Luke was supposed to become Batwing in season 1. That didn't work, so they passed it to season 2, and then now in season 3 we are we got Batwing, but not really. So
It's taking a long time.
yeah, I mean, what's happening there?
Yeah,
I
literally.
want to see it. I want to see Luke as Batwing, and
I can see a big Batwing moment happening in 3B.
Yeah,
Like
same.
him fully coming into his own without the
Yeah.
AI and just possibly saving Mary. Something romantic. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see it.
Also, just a quick nod to the Lucius reference by Marcus. Are we ready to bet on him being Ryan's dad, mayhaps?
Yes.
yeah, I think we can put a check on the Ryan Luke siblings theory we had a while back. I know we dropped it because the writers didn't give us any more clues for
Yeah.
5 episodes or something. But I think we can pretty much greenlight it. I think this episode really made it, not clear because it wasn't explicitly stated, but the pieces are all there and they're all lining up in that way. So I think it's very valid to assume we're gonna get a reveal in the future about Lucius being Ryan's dad.
And then possibly Lucius would have had cheated on Luke's mom for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would put a spin on how Luke sees his dad. And that would be a cool storyline for Luke.
Exactly.
And that could also play into him leaving the AI behind and just being Batwing on his own.
Exactly.
Yeah, just stop trusting his dad and moving away from that feeling he has for his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just trusting, but we keep talking
Worshipping
about
him.
Yeah, that's the word, yeah.
Yeah, because we keep talking about how superheroes are flawed, and Luke just has this very neat image of his dad. And I know some people, Tasha for example, is probably gonna get a little upset at the show ruining Lucia's reputation with this. Maybe. We are assuming he cheated on Ryan's mom, on Luke's mom, but it's possible he didn't.
Yeah, we don't
We
know.
are just assuming at this point, but
We were just saying that it would make a really interesting storyline.
yeah, either way it goes, it would make for a pretty cool storyline, and it would, I assume it would really shift Luke in a big way.
And it makes all sense why his storyline is kind of dormant now, because then if we get the reveal,
Right.
we're gonna
Yeah,
get the whole
everything's-
Batwing and everything connects, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be really fun.
Everything's gonna blow up for
Ooh,
him
yeah.
then.
Yes.
Okay, anything else you guys want to add?
Let me check.
I have the extra.
Extra. Cute.
In my notes I have the Swamp Thing mention,
Right.
which is I don't have anything to say about that other than Swamp Thing mention.
Easter egg alert.
Valid.
Yeah. But I also have to mention that we haven't seen our actual Poison Ivy just yet, so
Yes.
she's definitely appearing in 3B. And I wonder if she's gonna be like a mentor to Mary. And most of all, I wonder if she's gonna play a part in maybe reversing Mary from her infection, and kind of have like a selfless moment and take the poison ivy infection back or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Because what other way would she come and have a really,
Meaningful.
strong point, in the show, other than either teaming up with Mary or helping her?
Yeah, that's true. I don't see how they would make her important now that Mary is basically Poison Ivy. Like, it would be redundant to have her as Poison Ivy unless she's there to help Mary.
And I'm very much looking forward to seeing that.
On that note, I do want to say, you guys know I'm a simp for Mary, but I loved how, I love the combination of her really like sweet voice, but then really evil dialogue.
Yes.
I don't know, it's just really sexy. I love her as Poison Ivy so much.
You just said, I'm a simp, but I'm also a simp. That's what we got from that.
That's my experience as a Mary worshipper. I just had here that I wanted to shout out the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack in this episode in
I
general.
was vibing so much in the beginning.
Yeah.
The opening scene.
Yeah.
We comment on cinematography and we comment on directing and acting. So shout out to the people in charge of the soundtrack. It's always on point.
Always.
And lastly, how will the Bat team go on without their headquarters and only with access to the Batmobile and Batsuit?
Yeah, I also had the same note because it's interesting because the other time we had this, they only didn't have the bat suit, right? And the weapons when
Kate
that
stole
guy-
when
no.
Kate stole it.
I mean,
when
also
Kate stole
that,
it, exactly.
But then
Yeah.
also when the guy that was pretending to be Bruce
Right.
took not the suit,
Tommy
because, right? Yeah, Tommy Elliot.
Tommy Elliot,
When
yeah.
he took the Batmobile and whatever. And they were kind of left in the dark.
What I'm most worried about is they're gonna be completely without their comms and without all that tech that really helps them.
Yeah, I mean, and
Exactly.
without the funds, because
Yeah.
how are they gonna
Yeah.
keep shit going? Because like they mentioned, the weapons are at the Batcave. So they really only have the Batmobile and the suit. That's it. So
And they're gonna be up against the Batwoman Suicide Squad of Marcus, Alice, and Poison Mary.
yeah.
Yes.
So Bat Team Struggle Era 2022, I
Yeah,
guess.
it really is. I'm worried for them.
They are coming down from their rich
Yeah.
power.
I mean,
Stuff.
when were we talking about humble beginnings earlier today? Because like
Oh, it was
Oh,
our
yeah,
setup
Our
for the
setup,
podcast.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, currently we are sitting on the floor with our microphone prompted up on a headlamp, so I
Really
mean,
close to each other.
Yeah,
Empathizing
So-
with the Bat team right now.
yeah. I mean, but I really did get super stressed when I saw Marquis pull out that
The
resignation.
contract, yeah.
That resignation letter and all that stuff, because I kept hoping that Ryan wouldn't do it and would try to find another way to save Mary, but at the same time I'm very glad that she put Mary first.
Yeah, no, me
Yes,
too.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, even though the outcome was terrible, I'm still very glad she did it.
Yeah, me too. Well, hope to see you guys again in January. I will really miss this podcast. We hope our listeners have enjoyed our work so far. Don't forget to follow us at Arkham_Archives and leave all your 3B predictions there. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye bye!